It's hard to believe that there are still so many people who don't believe that electric vehicles is inevitable, even with EVs now costing less than gas cars in both China and Europe, and even with the cost of lithium-ion batteries continuing to plunge. So today we're going to review a whole bunch of graphs showing how prices for sustainable energy is now at par and falling even faster than their old energy counterparts. We've got Hans Nelson joining us. He has a YouTube channel called Hans C. Nelson. Thank you, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
Lots of graphs. The biggest thing that I think you and I have said about these graphs is that the forecasts have all been wrong, and it's pretty shocking how the forecasts have been wrong. Let's go through the stats here, what we're seeing. So I was brought to this attention by Steve Jurvetson. He's a well-known VC in the past, and because Elon kind of liked his tweet, and he says, the inevitable EV future as seen in two graphs from today's Wall Street Journal. One, EVs now cost less than gas cars in China and Europe and should cross over in the US. They think next year. That's a little aggressive, but wow, it's going to be EV cars now cost less than average gas cars. Two, lithium ion storage has the best experience curve slope. Most industries have a logarithmic rate of cost improvement with scale, typically dropping 20% for each accumulated doubling of volume. Lithium ion is on a steeper slope than hydro, fuel cells, chemistries, and others, or alternative battery chemistries. So this is the beautiful charts that I've been waiting for. Many of us have. This shows you the cost of the average price of an ICE vehicle. That's the gray line, and they're flat, right? That's the cost. That's their projection, because you really can't reduce the price of an ICE vehicle anymore. It's been hundreds of years, or 100 years. And so this is from 2022 to 2030. This is China, this is India, Europe, and US. So you see the cost of an ICE vehicle in each of those markets. The kind of this blue-green line here is the cost, the average price of an electric vehicle. And in China, they're already at par. In India, they're already at par. Or will soon be by like this year. And in Europe, they're already at par, 2023. And then in US, it's looking like it's going to be 2024 that they believe that it's going to be at par. And even more striking is how much further this is at par, but it's going to get cheaper over time. That's their projections. What's your thoughts on these charts?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the future playing out exactly like Tony Seba has predicted now for quite a while. And the key insight that he had is that the price, so those price decreases that electric vehicles and sustainable energy technologies are on, they're going to continue. And if you project them forward, he knew that they would pass the ICE equivalents or fossil fuel equivalents for energy as well, just because those things, like you said, they've been around for so long that they have basically maxed out the amount of efficiencies that they can get by growing in scale. Whereas not only have they maxed out those, but then we keep adding new regulations, and so our cars continue to get safer. But as a consequence of making them safer and more fuel efficient, they also get more expensive. And so we've kind of maxed out. We've made them as cheaply as we're ever going to make them, and now they're actually getting more and more expensive over time. At the same time that these EVs and renewable energy technologies are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And so this is the thing that, people vote with their wallet. If it's going to be cheaper to go electric, if it's going to be cheaper to use renewable energies, then those technologies will win. That is the core understanding that Elon had about both EVs, but also solar energy and renewable energy in general, that if you can change the fundamental unit economics of renewable energy and electric transport, that's how you actually get the world to transition. It's not about just doing something because it's better for the world, but it costs us more. It's about doing the thing that is actually cheaper for us and is better for the world at the same time.
Yeah. And what's incredibly interesting is that it's going to just continue to plummet. It's like we're just there at the parity. So you did an amazing video. You interviewed Adam Dorr. I've also interviewed him as well. He is one of the chief research analysts for Rethink X with Tony Seba. They're part of that group, and they have just world famous for forecasting. So folks, check out Hans' interview with Adam. So let's take a look at what's happening with forecasting. So this is this article from Wall Street Journal, and it basically says renewable energy growth explodes. And we're gonna show deeper here. This is the kinds of renewable energy, and we're going to compare the forecast versus what actually happened. So this is solar capacity. In 2002, this gray line was the forecast. They believed by 2030, this gray line is what they were forecasting of the solar capacity by 2030. Now, 2010, they adjusted it. These are, experts. They adjusted their forecast. This is the average forecast by 2010. They go, it's going to be a lot better, more than we initially thought. But by 2020, this became the forecast because this is the actual from 2010 to 2020. This is what they saw the actual happen. And so now they made this forecast. But look at this forecast. Still, they still do a line up. And now at 2023, we are now have a new line. If this is still a line up, by the way, right? Because actually should be like going like this. But okay, this is solar and this is wind power. Same kind of scenario. And this is battery electric vehicles, which is even more dramatic jump up. And in fact, I think I saw some stats saying that, we just heard him say, right, Steve Jurgensen, that the battery electric vehicles will be even bigger than that. This is the cost of energy storage technologies. And so the lithium ion is the one in the kind of the black purple here, this line right here. This is the cost of lithium ion energy storage, and it's going to just fall. Then you've got, this is EV packs, and then you've got the purple line is the utility cost. Then you got electrolysis and vanadium. Comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, the core issue that the forecasts have had is that they're always linear forecasts. They say, okay, this year we're making however many, and we are just going to continue to increase at a linear rate. If we made 10% more than we made last year, we're not going to increase it by percentage points. We're going to say, hey, we made 20 extra gigawatt hours of solar this year. So next year we're going to also make 20 extra, not 20% extra. And so that fundamental, using that linear expansion instead of an exponential expansion, is what causes this to be wrong. And the reason that it's exponential is because it is, it was starting out from a relatively high base of price. And so it takes it a while in order to eat into all of the different use cases and win on the economics. But once it does, then they can make a ton more of it. And then it actually continues that the TAM grows and the production price falls at the same time. And they're able to just grow, like I said, at an exponential rate. And 20% is something that's a good, when Steve said that the learning rate is 20%, that's what he means, is that there's an exponential growth in or reduction in the cost of those technologies. And 20% is good. The lithium ion is growing even faster than that. So that's one of the things that gave Tony Seba that insight early on, is that, hey, we can see that this learning rate is fast. And because it's got a faster learning rate than any of the other technologies, we know that if you give it enough time, the learning rate will dominate other factors. And that is what will cause lithium ion to actually be the technology that wins. And, we've seen that over the past 7, 8, 10 years. And we're going to continue to see that moving forward.
Yeah, the other thing that causes the curve to go up beyond the learning rate is the money. So here's the venture capital funding on a quarterly basis for this green technology. And you can see it started in 2017. That was just very recent, 2017, 2018. There was very little money being thrown in. But now that they see that it's working, now that they see it's going to be inevitable future, look at how much money, we're talking billions per quarter, are being thrown now at this. And so when you got money being thrown at this, these curves are going to go down. And then this is the cost. So in addition to how much money and the learning curve, it's the cost that really matters, right? Because the cost of the car has to go down. So electric vehicles, the battery pack is the most expensive part of the car. Look at the cost in 2010, $1,391 per kilowatt hour. Here we are in 2023, and it says $139 per kilowatt hour. We're talking one tenth the price of what it used to cost just 10 years ago, 13 years ago. So now we're definitely in that space, and it's going to keep falling. So this is the price of lithium ion battery pack prices. Here we go. You can see it there. It's going to even further fall, another 14%. And especially because of the current scenario we had with the supply chain issues.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it does look like it started to increase there a little bit, but that was just because of, like you said, COVID and supply chain. And then when you factor in the IRA incentives that are really also going to throw a lot of fuel on this, and then Tesla's internal targets are by 2030 to have $75 a kilowatt hour, or sooner than 2030 even, to have $75 a kilowatt hour. And so that's their target. That's what they're driving towards. And obviously, that's a little bit more than half of that $139 price.
Thank you so much, Hans. So if you go to my website, herbertong.com, I actually have a list of all the best charts that are out there, the ones that are most important, and some of these will be there. Thank you, Hans. Follow him on his YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.